demand climate reminds me of another summit, another historical summit that took place 14 years ago exactly, on the 9th of September. This one is 10th of September. This was 9th of September 2011 in Nairobi. Just the dates that are similar, but the Nairobi summit was convened and decried the problem of recurrent drought. The summit here we are attending now, the second African Climate Summit, is calling for a systematic shift from reactive to proactive investment. The Nairobi summit called for ending of humanitarian interventions and ending of and managing emergencies. The summit of Addis that we are attending now is crying for a shift from fragmented projects to integrated systems. The summit in Nairobi 14 years ago was proposing that we stop acting as individual countries or as individual actors and start working as a region. The summit we are attending now is calling for a shift from donor-driven agendas to African-owned solutions. The summit in Nairobi 14 years ago decried the firefighting, reactive hit-and-run interventions that were preferring or proposing that we start having planned long-term resilience building programs. We have now, we can now ask ourselves today, in this summit here in Addis, with 14 years of Idris under our belt, if this summit actually can learn anything from Idris's 10-year or decade, as the title suggests, a decade resilience transforming. We took a crisis and transformed it into sustainable regional strength. And now, to address ourselves to this issue, to this question of whether we can learn any lessons from Idrisi for purposes of enhancing the objectives of this summit, we have enlisted the support of 6 experts. And the experts are seated before you. You can see them. We begin with Engineer Hussein Jirma, seated on the extreme right, who is from the National Drought Management Authority of Kenya. In his intervention, he'll also be able to say a little more about what he's doing. We have next to him, we have Mr. Joachim Beijmo, Head of Regional Development Corporation of Sweden, who has agreed to be with us and to participate in this panel discussion. Then we have next to him, Mr. David Kwaje, who is the Head of Mission of IGAD, Head of Mission in South Sudan. And next to him, we have Jochen Schmidt, who is the Project Director from GIZ. And then we have Dr. Tesfaye Basha, who was formerly head of Idrisi at IGAD and is a renowned independent expert on this matter. And finally, last but not least, we have Dr. Dereje, Director of ICPALD, the IGAD Special Institution based in Nairobi. We have crafted questions, a number of questions that are aligned to Idris's record as a pioneer trying to operationalize the same principles that this summit has on the second Africa Summit, basically including the principles of localization, resilience building, green growth, and innovative climate financing. I will pose the first question, and the first question I'll invite Mr. Jirma to answer. The first question I have for you is, by the way, this question, there's no right answer to these questions, just opinions, and that's the best way to treat it. So, Mr. Jirma, what lessons have you learned about financing the drought resilience agenda?
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Kabaya. Jirma from National Drought Management Authority, Kenya. Just before I answer the question, I want to respond to how regional initiative actually strengthen national-based sustainable climate change and adaptation issues, and also strengthening the sustainable regional initiative solidarity. After the summit of 2012, that initiative resulted in the Idrisi initiative. That helped us as a country in actually reorganizing ourselves on the drought hazard and trying to transform it from a crisis to opportunities, and how to manage to ensure that it doesn't become an emergency. So as a country, we really echoed the Idris initiative, the region initiative. It helped us as a country to actually come up with a framework, a 10-year framework of ending drought emergency. That really helped us on reorganizing ourselves, how we manage drought and strengthen our system. We had, of course, this foundation of development that the initiative told us to focus on, and we really clearly focus on those: peace and security, human capital development, livelihood support, and climate-proof infrastructure, because these were really integrated. Along that, we focus on one of the main important issues. It's not from just a project perspective, how can we institutionalize that? So we coined, based on the initiative, a clear institutionalization strategy, which is from knowledge management, putting financing system in place, putting early warning system in place, putting coordination in place. That is now what gave birth to NDMA. So that we take care of now the coordination, putting system, financing mechanism. From financing mechanism, how did we learn the last decade? We had a program that was supporting contingency fund from an early warning system, because an early warning system without a resource allocated to it so that you are able to respond, you mess up with the National Treasury's budgeting system, where you get resources from development and take to response. So we had an EU program that helped us in coming up with a project-specific contingency fund. The initiative now helped us to institutionalize financing, where NDMA was first institutionalized. NDMA itself was institutionalized thanks to Idris initiative and regional drive, and helped us as a country to do that. We formed a dedicated financing mechanism from a project and made it a fund now. And that fund is linked to an early warning system. And in addition to that, we were able to engage with the National Treasury to come and discuss how do we fund climate issues within the context of limited fiscal space that the National Treasury has to struggle with. And it's not just in Kenya, it's all over. The issue of debt crisis, how do we ensure that the climate financing or whatever agenda we push from the various sectors doesn't increase the burden? And then the other aspect is, how do we ensure that whatever development budget has been done, we don't midway tell them that we change to response issue. So from that, we engage with National Treasury, and that's one of the most important things as a risk experts. You must engage with National Treasury. Whatever financing instruments you want to come up doesn't also distort fiscal space, increase burden, and doesn't change that. So we engaged with National Treasury and came up with a national disaster risk financing strategy with clear instruments now, with clear financing instruments. How do we ensure that the contingency fund that each country usually has alongside the normal development, how do we ensure that we strategically and objectively pull all stakeholders to ensure that that contingency fund is effectively and efficiently utilized. So we must have a strategy. Do you have a early warning system? Do you have impact assessment that every sector buys into so that we are able to coordinate in a coordinated way, access that, so that it is effective and efficient. Beyond that, we went into now issue of project-specific programming, financing. And one of the initiative under IDRISI is it are the investment, the development issues, program funding, is it risk informed? So we had to come up with a risk analysis where now issue of early warning, risk mapping comes in. And thanks to a regional engagement from a multi-hazard perspective or hazard-specific perspective, we've been having that kind of conversation. Now that ensures that all development issues are risk-informed. Went further, and this thanks to the coordination with National Treasury, with stakeholders. How do we bring on board risk transfers? Because that's another area. Are there opportunities for us to bring on risk transfers? Whether it is at country level, whether it is a sovereign risk pooling like ARC, how do we bring up also that? And government, within our constitution, each sub-county, sub-national level, you are supposed to put 2% of your audited account for emergency. How do we tweak that to make it a county-level climate change fund so that a risk-informed planning processes from community and emergency issue are also mainstream that. The conversation now we are having is how do we also access other international climate financing opportunities? But the issue on that is it a grant? Is it a loan? So from a programming perspective, you have to really be able to ensure that as much as you access that from a institutional perspective, do you have an engagement system structure to ensure that you don't increase the debt burden? Are the those financing mechanisms gives you an opportunity as a grant, and you will get a very good opportunity to have a conversation with National Treasury when you bring grant again. So those are the kind of things we do, and that is thanks to the IDRISI initiative of moving from project perspective to a structured system and arrangement that brings everybody on board, and with of course a lot of learning, input, changes here and there, and continuous monitoring.
Thank you very much. So IDRISI inspired the creation of a 10-year framework of EDE that has now become projectized and so on. Can I pose the same question to South Sudan? The question was, what lessons have you learned about financing the drought resilience agenda? What's your view about what has happened in South Sudan?
Thank you. Once again, allow me to appreciate your presence. Being a pioneer of IDRISI, it's always good to have you and learn from you. My name is David Kwaje, the IGAD Head of Mission to South Sudan, as well as the National IDRISI Coordinator. As my colleague from Kenya was mentioning, there is a huge gap when it comes to financing and having a response fund, which is rarely catered for within the national budgeting mechanisms. This by itself leaves a lot of gap and at the same time creates a burden to the communities as well as to the donor community. A burden to the communities as more on that the IDRISI has been able to achieve in South Sudan over the last 10 years is to come up with basic to the National Ministry of Finance and Planning, which through the National Development Strategy has been able to come up with a mechanism and a platform that brings together partners in Juba, mainly the World Bank as the African Development Bank, who have been able to come up with short gap measures. However, given that at the moment still having the same difficulties with regards to coming up with their own national plans. Therefore, there is a lot of room which through now the subnational program of IDRISI, we have been able to create what we call the County Expert Panel, which is able to sit within the respective counties to discuss with the partners and come up with a mechanism that is proactive in nature. Because I will give you an example. We recently had a subnational meeting in Capoeira, where we were able to meet with the county commissioner as well as the county executive director, and they were able to admit that, despite the fact that basic support was given in terms of constructing some of the facilities, the day-to-day operationalization was lacking in terms of consumables, in terms of running the centers. Therefore, through that platform, they are now able to meet with the partners who are there to align their priorities and to ensure that the little resources that are there are directed to the most needed areas. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So we see a similar activity happening in South Sudan, caused by the initiation of Idrisi and later. But now I'd like to hear from our development partners, especially with regard to what would you say, what has been the experience of development partners in financing cross-border resilience initiative in the IGAD region? Now remember, cross-border areas were for a long time neglected. I think really thanks to Idrisi, Idrisi shown a torch of focus on these areas, because they are neglected, because they are usually far from the capitals, and they are divided between different authorities, so development is not usually. But with Idrisi, there was quite a lot of focus. And this focus actually came with a lot of support from development partners, and we'd like to hear from now Johan, what has been the experience of you as a development partner in financing cross-border resilience initiatives. I don't know whether this, I think, could go to GIZ first as a person who has really been the critical source of support for IGAD in supporting cross-border areas.
Thank you very much, Dr. I think looking back to the history of Idrisi, the launch of Idrisi, I think GIZ was also already there. And coming up, Idrisi and GIZ have a long history together in the support of Idrisi in the last 10 or longer years. The project I'm heading, I think it's now the third phase of this project, has been one of the supporters of Idrisi in the last years. I think what we also can see that Idrisi was in the beginning quite instrumental of helping to streamline and make resilience more of a household name in the region. As my colleague pointed out, Idrisi was helping to create a Kenyan national resilience strategy and forming NDMA. I think this also can be said for many other states and countries in the Horn of Africa who have benefited from the existence of Idrisi. When it comes to cross-border financing, I would say that we have been also working here with Idrisi for a bit, seeing different phases. We have seen opportunities where we worked on pilot projects together with Idrisi, piloting cross-border finance projects, where then other donors came in. We also developed, for example, a cross-border development plan for some areas in those so-called IGAD clusters, with the idea that other donors, bilateral donors, regional donors, banks can chip in and take up the needs, look at the needs and what are the funding gaps, and can actually implement these or address those needs and gaps in those regions. We also see that the banks came in later on and supported regional cross-border financing, but what we still see, unfortunately, is quite a bit of a duplicity or lack of coordination among donors and among different actors on the subject of regional cross-border resilience building. And I think this is also now the point what I would like to take here at this meeting with a changing landscape and a changing perspective on cross-border resilience building, but also with the lack of and the shrinking budgets of official development aid, cooperation and synergies become more and more important. And I think IGAD here, with its unique mandate, has a special role to play in bringing together different actors, be they the national actors, bilateral donors, governments, different partners who work with IGAD or do not work with IGAD, but work in the same region, in the same areas, so where we need to understand who is doing what, to avoid duplicity, find synergies, and on a certain subject matter topic. So I think for the way forward, we are coming from a situation where quite some money was available for cross-border resilience building, but in my own experience also, the finances were not always used in the way they should have been used because we were facing shocks. At the beginning, I would say for many years, a lot of the resilience efforts were hampered through consecutive climate shocks that have been experienced. So the money that was then diverted from resilience building more to humanitarian response in some ways. We are now seeing a lot more efforts to build stronger anticipatory action, looking at opportunities to build and from a developmental standpoint, and also look at more closer coordination between different partners. But for me, I think this is one important step forward. How could the future look like in financing regional resilience initiatives? We need to look at different financing instruments, looking at partners, who are the partners, who is acting where, and this really means stronger coordination also from the side of IGAD and the side of IDRISI. If I talk to other development partners, there's a strong demand and a request because there's, especially here in this region, there's only one agency who can fill this void or this gap, who is mandated to do that. And so that is a call where I think there's a lot of potential also to be more efficient in the use of finances and in the creation of results. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You made very good points about the need for coordination, and of course the strength of IDRISI is actually in coordination, because there are many players. We have a combination of development partners, member states, non-state actors, and so on, and with IGAD coordinating. It's very much the life of IDRISI is related to coordination. You mentioned also the issue of shrinking budgets. Can I now ask what Sweden would think about what are the prospects for sustaining support under the current financial climate?
Thank you.
As someone who has, as a country which has been very critical in supporting IDRISI all these years, and what is the possibility of sustaining this type of support?
Thank you. And maybe I'm not the face of a shrinking budget, but I will try to answer as good as possible. So first of all, allow me also to thank the organizers, IGAD, IDRISI, and ICPAC for putting this together, and also Ethiopia for hosting the summit. I think this is the second summit, and the message is compared to 2 years ago. I think the this is the second summit, and 2 years ago, which also is the discussion here today. How can we work as partners and find different vehicles and mechanisms to face this challenge together? As we look forward also to the COP30 meeting, I think this will be very much in focus, the national determined contributions and the national adaptation plans and how they are designed to function in this new setting, the new world that we are trying to work in. Sweden is supporting at many levels, of course, and when you look at our bilateral climate-related development cooperation, it's actually already 50% going towards adaptation efforts in African countries, which is a high number compared to other bilateral donors. But we are also a country with a shrinking aid budget on the African continent, like many other European countries. So we are also increasingly looking at opportunities for commercial partnerships where we can combine a private sector interest with a grant-funded development cooperation, and supporting a green transition where we can also have business opportunities for European and Swedish countries. And I think that is also at the core of today's discussion in this conversation. How can we combine mechanisms and work together in broad partnerships, bringing in academia, bringing in civil society, bringing in private sector, and of course national authorities. At the center of such a partnership, of course, is clear analysis, data that shows the situation on the ground, engagement of communities, and good strategies and policies. And that is why, of course, the work of IDRISI and ICPAC and organizations like also the national organizations are so important, because that partnership needs to be based on the real needs, and to get those needs clear, those institutions are key. We have had good results, of course. Sweden has been a partner of IGAD for many, many years, and IDRISI for a decade, and we see good results from that partnership, including cross-border activities like cross-border pastoralism and also blue economy. Yesterday we discussed also the blue economy, which is growing in importance. And we now have a dialogue on continued support, where we try to be even more coordinated to support the new strategic period for IGAD starting in 2026. And in that, I think there is shrinking room for grant funding. So we will look at how to combine different mechanisms and also increase coordination, as was already mentioned by my German partner, that we, as donors, we can improve our coordination, especially within the European Union, but beyond the European Union. But I also urge IGAD to lead us in coordination. I mean, as an organization, IGAD can also facilitate that coordination among donors, be transparent, and bring us together and make sure that the resources we have are used in the best possible way. I also think it's important to link the policies to national plans, and that member states take responsibility also for raising the finance and making the link between the regional policies and the national plans. And over time, member states' financing need to be a bigger part of the picture. Domestic resource mobilization is one of the pieces in this puzzle. And I think we all need to work on facilitating project preparation linked to resilience, making projects investable for a broader community, to make use of multiple financing sources, private sector investment, but also actually tapping into humanitarian funding. A lot of the humanitarian funding is coming in areas where they are, over time, they are one of the biggest actors. So even if every single investment in humanitarian support is based on humanitarian need, they also have some sort of responsibility for addressing resilience issues and long-term development of institutions and logistics and things like that. yeah, those are some of my thoughts when it comes to how we can work better together. And thank you so much. We look forward to that.
Thank you very much, and keep those thoughts because we are going to discuss also the scaling up and so on. But I'd like to go now to Dr. Dereje and IGAD. And I'm interested to know, how has IGAD promoted cross-border collaboration for resilience building?
Thank you very much, Dr. Caballo. Again, great to see you after a few years of away from us. Well, resilience building continues to be a context and relevant for years in this region. When we start, as you said, in 2011, there's also a clear identification of areas that are highly vulnerable and areas that IDRISI is supposed to focus. That is ASALs, arid and semi-arid area. Arid and semi-arid areas are on cross-border areas. It's ecologically, that is what connects the IGAD region. Socially, there is communities that are homogeneous across the board, which is also interdependent for both for good and bad. As you have clearly said, the IDRISI coordination has a lean regional coordination mechanism, but the task is big. Why do we make it that lean? The assumption is that the technical expertise of the different specialized centers, the divisions of IGAD, will technically contribute, and that's also clearly a demonstration. As you functioned for the past 10 plus years in IDRISI, it was 3 to 5 individuals functioning, mobilizing resource, coordinating regional IDRISI. So what was the role of the other specialized institution in cross-border area? If you take IGAD Climate Center, has been working in terms of climate prediction and then providing that information, improving the early warning in the context of that there are tasks that has been given to countries, there are tasks that has been done from the regional perspective, there are areas that has to be addressed in cross-border areas because of the cross-border nature. And ICPAC has been fine-tuning the early warning, the disaster risk management mechanism, how cross-border can benefit, how things will be harmonized. Similarly, if you see ICPALD, we have been part of this resilience building. We have been established to support the dry land areas. If you pick the Transhumance Protocol, it's part of the resilience building. In-country mobility is supported by countries, but cross-border mobility, orderly cross-border mobility, has been facilitated by ICPALD. Multiple areas. If we see livestock trade, we are supporting livestock trade to enhance offtake, both for livelihood support and for the environment. And one of the things that we are doing is to enhance offtake by facilitating trade with Middle East countries. If you see our division of water, there are lots of water, cross-border water developments. So we provide technical input from regional perspective. We provide harmonization of policies, practices. We also reach areas that cannot be reached by single country. And if you take the early warning center, C1, their main focus is cross-border area. And conflict is one of the factors that affects the life and livelihood, part of the disaster, and the information that come, the early warning that come from C1 is supporting the regional effort of resilience. So overall, most of the departments of IGAD are supporting the implementation of resilience building in the region, A, by providing technical input at that level, B, by providing cross-cutting issues, that coordinations that we are taking. Yes, administratively there is a coordination aspect. Technically also, it's a coordination aspect. I have been involved in one of the biggest programs that we implemented in the region on resilience building funded by World Bank. And what we did is we align livestock investment on mobility routes so that when Ethiopians livestock move to Kenya, they will have access to available water, available forage. Similarly between Uganda and Kenya. And that's only possible because of the technical input that we are providing at regional level. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Clearly, Idrisi is the preferred development paradigm of the region, and IGAD is clearly the coordination of this development is the niche of IGAD. Can we hear from Dr. Tesfaye? I know you are very experienced in this area, and but what do we, Idrisi has, you could say Idrisi has been shown to be like a medicine that has cured a disease, but what we need now is to have more of this medicine and make it available to more, to treat a bigger area. What support is needed to scale up this success?
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. First of all, I would like to thank the organizers for inviting me to this panel. And I would like to also acknowledge invaluable conversation and the input from the previous speakers. Coming to the issue of actually resilience building in the region, and the fact that Idrisi is the only medicine that would not lead to overdose, and we can do more of Idrisi. In that sense, IGAD is well placed in terms of bringing countries, development partners, and from across academia as well, and civil societies. Over years, we have done, more than foundation work and built community resilience. Those community resilience have built and translated into national level structure, which we can now pride ourselves at regional level. We are not comparing ourselves or the opportunities to turn the crisis into, such wonderful mechanism to prepare the region for even the further droughts and other associated disasters. In coming to now the issue of financing this and in sustaining and having more of this Idrisi mechanism. In fact, I hope you are, there is a background noise. That's disturbing me. Okay, on that note, we'd like to recognize the role of the countries in terms of financing. When we hear maybe some countries, according to their financial system or currencies, so much billion or trillion annual budget, it means those are resilience budgets. We need to recognize that. Countries are really in the forefront of building resilience. There is, to me, there isn't resilience separate budget and other budget. Only the source is different from government, from development partners, from private sector, even nationally. Really appreciate our IGAD member countries for their really contribution and for their foresight in terms of leading this. Then I would like to also take this opportunity, because I'm banking on my experience of the recent past role at IGAD, for which I have served for many years. Our development partners, some of whom have just spoken before me, and many others we can name, have supported resilience programs. I think what we need to know is we have to really take and encourage ourselves for the role played so far. However, the lessons we have learned is that the scale of investment requires intensifying. We need to intensify those investments at this stage. We have laid the platforms. The coordination mechanisms need to be strengthened, we said. But coordinating the development partners to, develop some, we need to partner some mechanisms that are not maybe common in that direct sense is like resilience, levies can be introduced. But levies are there. They are indirectly contributing back through government budgeting. They are there. There is mechanisms such as this. Various bonds are also there, which we can introduce to finance. And the previous speakers have said is building resilience from community, of course, from households to regional investment in terms of thinking together, regionally, acting nationally and locally. And the previous speakers have said a lot about cross-border development, cross-border facilitation, because we need to bring countries together. This is one thing we can say very proudly. Investment in the
So do you have any questions or comments or observations that you'd like to bring to the attention of this? We've seen Idris, yes. There's one hand there. Yes, another hand, two hands. Yes, yes, another hand, two hands. You need the guy.
Thank you very much. My name's Awamalo Kinyanji. I work with the IGAD Center for Pastoral Areas and Livestock Development. I would like to appreciate all the panelists, and my question goes to Engineer, I've forgotten the name, Kirima from Kenya. Following the Idrisi initiative, you said very well, you undertook a number of good initiatives like establishment of NDMA that really helped contingency fund. But looking at the 2020-2022 drought, you will see that Kenya was really hit. 2.6 million heads of livestock were lost in mortality in addition to productivity, even including wildlife. I don't know what lessons you learned from that and what you are planning to do so that we can avoid such scenarios again.
Thank you very much. I'd also like to extend a big thank you to Idrisi and the panelists for very interesting discussion. ACMAD, ICPAC and National Met Offices. I think my question builds on what my colleague here also asked. Now we know that early warning, early action saves lives and assets, and we understand that impact-based forecasting is still something that is a big gap. Understand that impact-based forecasting is still something that is a big expertise to come around. We do not see as much early action, yet, and anticipatory action. So what are the key gaps when it comes to early warning and impact-based early warning that the policymakers and development partners would like to have on the table to really mobilize resources that can enable different stakeholders from national down to communities to act? Thank you.
Hello. Thanks for the opportunity. I'm David Gekongo from Kenya. I want to appreciate the information given and particularly the whole aspect of Idrisi. My question is based on something that came out. I was not very keen on picking names, but this noble exercise that is going on, there was mention of a lot of other players and the possibility of duplication. What measures have you taken, or are you working with the local government to ensure that the duplication of efforts is minimized? Because the need is there, and there are a lot of groups that are geared towards serving this particular purpose. Is there such an effort, or am I probably making a suggestion, working with the local government so as to ensure that the targets are met? Thank you.
Thank you for giving me this golden opportunity. I'm by the name Gabriel Mawat, international student here in Addis. I'm from South Sudan. So my question is based on the climate. Like the past 2 years, the climate in our, like the temperature has rise so high, like extremely. We have never experienced it. So my question goes like, what have you learned from the climate changes which is taking place in South Sudan? So that's my question.
Basically talking about the drought of 2020-2022. Would you like to respond to that, and then the others can go ahead?
Thank you, moderator, and thank you for that question. It's true, the 2020 to 2023 drought was really impactful. However, the recognition of that is it was cumulative of successive hazard. That really made it worse. We had flood, we had locust, we had COVID, and then we had drought. It was really residual effect of the various hazards impacting on the communities and the systems was really an issue. So the learning from there is don't just wait for your hazard and think that by addressing only one hazard, you'll be able to address. We are dealing with the same community. So how do we approach issues from a multi-hazard perspective and coordinate is one key learning. The other issue is, despite that, in Kenya, there were not really deaths. The systems was really responsive despite the high impact. Another learning is continuous risk-informed investment. And what is important is just building up on issues. That drought and those successive hazards was not country-specific. It was regional specific. It affected Somalia, Ethiopia, Kenya, and even globally. So how do we refocus our cross-border resilience investment strategy? That needs to come out and not only focus on country. So IGAD needs to really come in, and I think it's been echoed here. The development partners have said, how do we reorganize ourselves from a landscape kind of approach, ecosystem, regional perspective, investment planning for resilience is another learning. Coordination, of course, is another very important one.
Yeah, on that specific, let's now go to the question of Renate. Early warning works, and what now? That I'd like opinions from everyone. What are the gaps in the policies or that prevent early action? You want to go have a go?
I can, before I pass the mic forward, I think as a bilateral donor, Sweden, we have access to humanitarian funding that can also finance anticipatory action in certain humanitarian settings. So I think, and that is something that is true for, I think, many countries. That is probably the quickest funding available, because all other funding has two lengthy processes when it comes to anticipatory action based on early warning.
Maybe a good example from a German perspective. is that we are working with IGPAC on our side. IGPAC is on the forefront here in the region if it comes to harnessing and analyzing data, climate data. One instrument, for example, is the East African Hazard Watch, which might be known to some. But also if it comes to analyzing data concerning early warning, early action, or anticipatory action, there is an effort going on, as far as I know, financed by the German Foreign Ministry, who is responsible for humanitarian support in Germany, who is supporting a regional project on anticipatory action, where we now, from a different German funding source, come in as GIZ to create and enhance an application that is bi-directional, that delivers early warning messages on the last mile, as a last mile solution. It's available as an application for Android, iPhone, as well as on feature phones. It has text-to-speech functionality translated into 5 local languages with artificial intelligence. And it also gives users the opportunity to report data towards IGPAC, to the platform, to enhance data quality and data quantity. This is a cross-border platform, a cross-border application, which is currently tested with IGPAC and us and the Kenyan Met Office, as well as the Ugandan Met Office in the Karamoja area, which is, I think, IGAD cluster number 1. These are just one example of efforts that we are doing in harnessing data, enhancing also the reaction on climate shocks, preventing people from falling into the trap of such events. It's one instrument of that which we are doing.
Right. In other words, early warning works. You just need to use it. From David Gekongo, the view that there may be many players and possibilities of duplication. That's a point of coordination.
Thank you very much, Dr. Caballo. I just want to respond very quickly on 3 areas. My reflection. The first one is on coordination and also duplication of effort. I think right from COVID, there is a little 3W through the support of GIZ. We are in the process of initiating mapping who is doing what where, which can be publicly available, and so that used as a decision making. As IGAD, ICPALT, the Center for Livestock, also trying to do a map who is doing what in the livestock sector, which complement also the DDC work. I am a little bit relaxed in terms of people talking about duplication of effort in ASAL area because of the demand, because of the level of vulnerability, because of the demand for investment in terms of building absorbing capacity to shock. But yes, most of the biggest investment are coming from development partners as well as also government. The government try to balance in terms of distribution of investment, but we are on it in terms of coordinating the investment by development partners. What is the lesson for the extreme climate events that we are observing in South Sudan, for example, in terms of temperature and the drought of 2022 and the loss of livestock? Is again, we are not ready for it. That's one. That's why we really need to focus and build resilience so that we build absorbing capacity in terms of infrastructure, in terms of preparedness. I can give you one particular example. Come again, another extent of drought, we might lose a couple of things. There are a lot of effort in terms of positioning, bringing private sector to produce feed, to position feed in Ethiopia, in Kenya, better than 2022. But what we see is the recklessness of droughts can still shock us. We need to keep prepared ourselves. Policies that are hindering, it's not hindering, and some of the things that we need to learn. I give you a particular example. If a serious drought comes, one option is to provide water and feed. Another option is to destock so that you reduce the livestock. And we need a functioning private sector to absorb, destock, and provide animals on trade. And that policy incentive for private sector, we are not yet there. And there are areas that we keep learning and improving as a region. Thank you.
We have it. Yes.
Thank you. Just a slight addition on the question by my namesake Director David on the local government. How do you involve the local government within the topic of duplication as well as the topic of coordination? I will give you an example when I'm answering that, because through the same IDRISI structure within the national level, we have gone towards subnational. Now we have in South Sudan, the example that I gave earlier was of the county expert panel, whereby we brought in each county to have its own technical advisory organ that will work with the partners within that particular locality. For the case of South Sudan, we identified Capoeira, where we formed it. It was supposed to be chaired by the county executive director, who's a civil servant and who's not a political servant. So that means that he's able to remain there for longer, and that also enables them to have more regular, more frequent interaction with the partners on the ground, because as you have seen, you find that there's sometimes a duplication of actors within a particular district. Sometimes even there's over-concentration in certain areas, which also causes some national sentiments that develop against that particular area. So, and to add on that is to build common awareness so that the locals and the communities around there are able to add to the little that the partners bring, because there's the element of private, build common aware partners bring, because there's the element of private sector, and that is one element that is rarely talked about, how to commercialize the...
On the questions, no, okay, very good. We have a short video of 4 minutes. We'll play it. Then after the video, I think we may need to. We'll come back and we will give you a concluding remarks, 2 minutes, and then we'll wrap up. So, can you?
In the expansive landscapes of the Greater Horn of Africa, where arid and semi-arid lands span across borders, a tale of hope, unity and resilience is inscribed by the Intergovernmental Authority on Development, IGAD, through the IGAD Drought Disaster Resilience and Sustainability Initiative, IDRISI. Established in 1986 as IGAD with a double D, IGAD's transformation in 1996 expanded its mandate to address droughts and social economic issues throughout the region. The 2010-2011 drought triggered a paradigm shift, leading to the establishment of IDRISI in 2011 during an IGAD summit of heads of state and government convened in Nairobi, Kenya. IGAD collaborated with member states and partners such as the World Bank, the African Development Bank, USAID, the European Union, the governments of Germany and Sweden, and UN agencies, fostering a shared commitment to proactive measures and resilience building. Through the Idrissi platform, IGAD and its member states identified cross-cutting issues, directing investments into joint projects to achieve regional objectives, embodying unity in diversity.
The philosophy of the initiative basically was confounded on let us think and plan regionally, but the actions that build the capacities of our countries and communities be done at the national level. So that gave it a unique approach to programming, where the design of programs is done collectively as a region, which has regional component where countries come together, but also with specific tailor-made actions depending on the country context.
Initiating cluster-level interventions within 4 clusters: the Karamoja cluster, Dick Hill cluster, Somali cluster, and the Mandera cluster. Idrissi penetrated cross-border regions, creating a platform for development, addressing strategic issues through comprehensive regional programming approaches, and fostering community engagement. With a focus on synergy and innovative investments, Idrissi has mobilized over $1.7 billion, enabling multi-year resilience projects and enhancing community-level changes. This has secured access to water, pasture, and markets for more than 30 million pastoralists and farmers across the 5.2 million square kilometers of the IGAD region.
The IGAD region is nearly 70% or more arid and semi-arid, and predominantly occupied by pastoral and agro-pastoral communities. So when drought affects a region, it affects water and of course food security. And already these locations already are arid and semi-arid. That means the impact is more severe in these locations. And most of these actually are pastoral communities. So they really take the hardest brunt of the drought. So hence, that are targeting these locations, most of them actually are targeted towards those places that are most prone to these disasters and are most affected by the scourge of drought.
One of the key achievements of Idrissi's Drought Resilience and Sustainable Livelihoods Program, DRSLP, is the improved access for 30 million pastoralists and farmers to secure water, pasture, and markets. In a region where access to these essential resources can mean the difference between survival and hardship, this milestone represents a lifeline for communities that have long been on the edge of vulnerability.
Kulikuwa na changamoto nyingi mbeleni kabla DRSLP hawajaanzisha kujenga hii borehole. Wanaenda mwendo mrefu 54 kilometers kutafuta maji, na sometimes wakienda wamechoka sana. Wengine wanasinzia hata njiani kurudi kwa sababu hiyo kilomita ni ndefu. Changamoto nyingine kwa upande wa masomo pia, kama hakuna maji, hakuna masomo yataendelea katika hii kijiji cha Lagloko.
Lakini saa hii at least amebadilika. Baada ya hii maji inapatikana, mfuko pia ile ya maziwa haendi mbali sababu anakunya hapa. Wale mfuko mwingine tu ndio taenda mbali kunywa maji. Bambo kuumia kukosa maziwa pia ilipunguka. Distance kwenda kutafuta maji pia amepunguka. Kwa hivyo kwa mabadiliko sasa.
Through the Regional Pastoral Livelihoods and Resilience Project, RPLRP, the Idrissi has provided dedicated support to livestock and the people who depend on them. One of the most profound impacts of the RPLRP has been its ability to significantly reduce the death rate of livestock, particularly cattle and goats.
Project has successfully achieved most of its targets. I will just give you example.
Particularly cattle and goats.
Project has successfully achieved most of its targets. Vaccination, harmony happening in harmonized way, and also relative capacity building for veterinary service at the local level, including training and capacity building for community animal health workers who are the frontline people in terms of providing animal health service as well as also reporting disease.
Despite varying developmental stages and decreasing resource investments, Idrisi has integrated resilience programming into national plans and fostered harmonization of resilience programming across member states. A decade of collaboration under the management of the Steering Committee platform has strengthened the political commitments of the member states towards a regional approach to building resilience, sustained support of the development partner, and improved capacity of IGAD to provide services to the member state institutions. With sustainability insight, IGAD, through the Idrisi program, envisions more people-centered projects and a strategic expansion of resilience interventions in the region. As we witness the unwavering spirit of communities and the relentless efforts of Idrisi, the journey is far from over. The mission is unwavering to eradicate the shadows of drought from the IGAD region and to pen a narrative of triumph and resilience.
Very much. We can come back to our seats and finalize this session. As you take your seats, think about your concluding remarks. We're going to give you a few minutes, just 1 minute or two, to conclude. My question is really, what would you want your take-home message from this summit to be? What can, based on the lessons we've had of Idrisi, what do you think this summit should learn from it and take home? In other words, what's your thoughts about that? How relevant is this? Remember, the summit is interested in finding new innovative ways of financing climate change phenomena impacts and responding to them. So what, using the history of Idrisi or the experience of Idrisi, what recommendations can you draw? We'll conclude.
Thank you. My reflection on the 10-year, the decade of Idrisi and the current summit. I think the regional initiative approach even for climate financing would be a very good way of really unlocking the financing. And on that, how would IGAD really come in, the gaps which we really at the national level struggle with? How do you do regional kind of modeling to inform risk pooling approaches, especially from a sovereign risk transfer approaches? Why do I say that? Is because we try at the national level even try to approach the regional or sovereign risk transfer. The challenges of the payouts and the rest, the instrumentalization of that is good to approach it from a regional perspective. That is one. Another area that will really be very good for us at the regional level, if you have a focus on the loss and damage assessment focused from a regional perspective, that will inform, of course, access to a regional kind of loss and damage funding. That would be good. And of course, the continuous learning, especially monitoring of the various instruments at the national level. How are they performing in as far as efficiency, effectiveness? Are they increasing debt burden? Are they budgeting processes? So those learning would be very good, and regional level would be the best place to have that kind of experience sharing. I think then landscape and eco, how do we do inter-subnational planning approaches within the country? I think that learning, if it could be carried to the national level, will be very good, because even within the national, the inter-county, inter-subnational issues really need to be brought out and effectively addressed.
Thank you. Joachim?
Thank you very much. So I think the one takeaway, of course, is the success of Idrissi with the lean coordination at the regional level and making the link to national planning. And I think for scaling up, it means the national planning needs to be even better at packaging those opportunities as investment opportunities to be able to tap into a multitude of resources out there, including international partners. I think that is my key takeaway from today's discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Yes, David?
All right, thank you. One is on the aligning our priorities into the country programming papers, which is basically the strategies that Idrissi is implemented at the national level, and also linking it to the upcoming 2026-2030 IGAD strategy, so that we're able to actualize all that is coming out of these discussions. And secondly is on how to shared infrastructure such as the one that ICPALD is doing on the Uganda and South Sudan border, so that we're able to actualize and humanize all these discussions on the ground. Thank you.
Thank you. I think the question was what can we learn from this summit also, and how can we maybe look into new innovative financing instruments. Before we arrive at these instruments, I think one thing is very important, which is for willingness to support and finance and to chip in, it's trust and ownership. Trust comes of understanding, so I think data is very, very important. Henceforward, data will play and needs to play a much more important role in the way we see Idrissi performing and acting. Analyzing data gives us a good understanding of what we're doing and where we're standing. So data is important. The second one is ownership. Ownership, in my view, has to do a lot also with cooperation and coordination. So implementing the IGAD protocols, cross-border protocols within the member states helps to build trust and understanding. It makes the barriers a bit more transparent. And then coordination, like it happens already on a national level, but also especially in the clusters where we see through the instrument of the cross-border development facilitation units, we can do a lot in bringing communities together across border and regions together. And that creates ownership and probably also more of a willingness to understand and to chip in if it comes to enhance and increase the funding for Idrissi and its initiatives. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Tesfaye.
Okay, thank you. Indeed, looking around and counting on my, visiting some of the pavilions and events, the stage and the scene is very encouraging. Number one, I can see lots of young people, lots of women who are our guarantee and carrying the message to the future, and a diverse group of people from west to East Africa, south to north, and from Europe and other Western countries. And these are, by and large, I believe, they are workers of development. They are supporters of development. This is very encouraging. And the cause of resilience has been pronounced multiple times, maybe, I don't know, million times. It has been said in these times, maybe, I don't know, million times. It has been said in this particular conference. Now think about what next. Now we have this momentum, what purposeful partnership we need to create. Aren't there already still, a number of parallel initiatives? Can't we just converge them so that because we are acting in the same region, so that we can, the kind of message that I just want to take home. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I think most have been said. I will also very much emphasize on resource and additional financing. One of the things that we are keep hearing is about adaptation and mitigation funding. There are a lot of things happening through resilience building in land management. I think the next effort is how to enhance that, how to amplify the role of community ownership in terms of managing and improving their land, what accessing additional finance in the effort that they are doing. I think that's one thing that we should look, because there is exhaustion of resource, and we need to look at the private sector, how the role of private sector in insurance, and how the role of private sector in trade, how the role of private sector in providing service in animal health and so on. So enhance it through encouraging policies, so that also the private sector role can be complementing what is happening in terms of resilience building. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I don't know whether I can do justice to those very powerful messages of conclusion, but clearly, Idrisi is the most effective development paradigm that has ever been designed for this region. And we called it a medicine, and Dr. Tesfaye said it's a medicine for which there is no overdose. And I agree with that entirely. I remember the slogan in the 2011 summit. There were 3 powerful messages. Never again. I don't know whether we're going to have the same types of slogans from here, but in Nairobi we said never again will there be drought, famine because of drought, sorry. And we'll be doing things differently hereafter, you know. And the last one was we are going to be a region. We are going to think as a region and act as nations. And those were powerful messages. And I hope the same messages can come from this summit. Now, we saw the great relevance of Idrisi in cross-border areas. These were neglected areas, but the central focus, actually the greatest impact of Idrisi so far has been cross-border areas. And the greatest role of IGAD also is becoming clearer and clearer. And we are here the successful story in one area where, after a successful project was done, a child was born in one village and was named IGAD because of the appreciation of the work that was being done. So clearly there is a little response. And yesterday, talking about funding, it's called what's the title? The manual was called A Manual for the Development of Nature-Based Carbon Projects in East Africa. And this is an area of funding that this region has really not benefited from. So I'm hopeful that there'll be a new way of looking at this as a new way of funding projects, because clearly we qualify for carbon funding and we are the most affected by climate change, but we benefit least from the available facilities that were created because of carbon. So many proposals have been made, and really I can't go through them. Trust and own the available facilities that were created because of carbon. Trust and ownership. I think clearly it has been a success. Then issue of cooperation and coordination. These are clearly what Idris is all about. And actors in the global perspective, the fact that there are so many people involved worldwide, it's very encouraging. In any case, Idris is a partnership endeavor, and from the beginning, we realized there would be no boundaries, no borders, and this climate change has taught us a lesson that actually we have one world ecosystem, one global ecosystem, and we need to tackle it as such. And we're very grateful to development partners who really have come forward and joined us in all this and so on. And then involvement of the private sector, insurance and so on. These have not been coming in, but I'm sure with this, especially with the summit that I've seen, there's clearly a big role for private sector to come in, and insurance schemes that have been developed and so on. So really, to conclude a very exciting session, this panel discussion and so on, I'd like to thank the panelists all. Can we put our hands together, please, and thank them all for their participation. And thank you, the audience, for the patient listening and the powerful questions. Thank you so much.